Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fresh out the oven edition of Ranking Spankings, our series where we take a pop culture entity, whether it's a band's discography, a video game series, or in this case, a movie series, and find out which ones are the S tiers, which ones are the A tiers, and which ones are right down in the poo tiers. Today, as you can tell by the title of this video, we will be looking at a topic very close to my heart, the Star Wars series. We're going to count all 9 of the episodic films, as well as the 2 spin-offs, Solo and Rogue One. And I am very much looking forward to this. My name is Tom, and I am one of your usual hosts. And joining me on this voyage to a galaxy far, far away, Craig Bourne.
So I thought we were doing Star Trek, so I'm not really sure how helpful I can be here.
Just pick them based on how similarly they sound to Star Trek titles and be like, nah, that gives me good vibes. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 3, Kirk's Revenge. Yeah, I'm on board for it. Let's do it.
Tom Hardy was bald in one of those films.
He was.
And equally not as bald, Drew Friday. How you doing, Drew?
Oh, I fucking pray. The day I go bald, that's half of my allure gone. How will I get...
It's like when you castrate a lion, its mane falls out.
It's like when you just shave one of those dogs that's mostly fluff, and there's just this skeletal, the alien from Alien 3 just remaining. That's what you'll have left of me. Afterwards.
What a specific alien to mention. The one that's like,
because that's a dog.
It's a dog or a cow, depending on if you watch the director's cut or not.
And you shouldn't. You should watch neither of them because they're terrible.
No, what you should do, and this is the last we'll talk about Alien before we get into Star Wars, although Alien is a tier list video I would like to do sometime. There has recently been a book released which is based on the original scripts of Alien 3 when it was just David Fincher's vision before the studio got in the way. And apparently it's really good. And it makes me sad that his vision never got to see fruition and it got ruined by studio interference. But
people like you are why we got a Snyder Cut. Let it die.
Alien 3, Snyder Cut. Confirmed.
Oh, yeah. Zack Snyder comes in and just releases his version of Alien 3.
I mean, that film is already pretty dark.
Just do that with every film from now on. The Emoji Movie, Snyder Cut.
Oh, my God.
Turn down the saturation on everything and be done with it.
The emoji just cries over the body of its dead parents and it's screaming for 3 minutes straight. Just, Martha!
And Logic does the soundtrack.
Oh, God.
But anyway.
We got really sidetracked within 2 minutes. I do have to say, Tom, I've never seen you look that pleased as when it hit you that you were going to be hosting a Star Wars tier list. The look on your face.
This is my Christmas present from everyone, including myself, is that I get to talk about Star Wars with you guys. Because that's something I try to do on a daily basis. And I normally get shut down. But legally, I can't get shut down now. So this is great. This is
Tom Baker Consultancy, LLP. You can't shut him down.
You're breaking the fourth wall.
Patent pending.
Anyway. So before, obviously, everyone can probably tell where I stand with Star Wars, but what is your guys' sort of relationship with Star Wars? Are you fans? Are you indifferent? What do you think about the galaxy far, far away?
I'll go first because Drew speaks so eloquently and I'll seem like a dummy going after him. I think I saw the original trilogy when I was young, and then I was young enough to see episode 1 in cinemas with my papa, and I've sort of had this come back to me sort of relationship. It's never been my whole personality, but from time to time it's there and I enjoy it. So like when the new trilogy came out, I was like, I guess it's that time again to, have that part of my life where Star Wars is there. So I've never gone deep into the animated shows or anything like that. I've just enjoyed the films for what they are, films.
Okay.
That is a very healthy way to look at it. I wish there were more people who thought about Star Wars like
that. Yeah. What about you, Drew? What's your opinion of Star Wars?
I don't know how you thought I was going to be eloquent about this, but I used to like Star Wars for toys. The minute I stopped playing with toy lightsabers or my little Lego Star Wars people, the minute I grew out sort of playing with those, I think that was where my love of the franchise was tied up in, and I think that's where they wanted it to be tied up in anyway. You know, a lot of this is based about selling toys, and it is such a interactive franchise. This idea of like so many things that you can just pick up, and you're in Star Wars now with the pew pew and the vum vum, and in the same way that there are like people who I know are fully only fans of Harry Potter because of the Lego sets, I genuinely was. I think I was only a fan of Star Wars because I wanted to be a Jedi and or other things like that. So the video games, I'll still play them. The movies, I've really gone off them, especially after the last sequel batch. So.
Wow. I mean,
so just like you, Drew, in response to me, I think there should be more Star Wars fans like you out there as well. And then we wouldn't have these, 40, 50-year-olds moaning about, Ewoks or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Or, people having... I mean, let's be honest. These are like sword and fantasy things. This is like Conan Barbarian, but in space. I mean, I don't think it was ever really meant to be high art. I couldn't give that much of a crap about it.
Hey, high art now. Come on.
Sorry, was that very pretentious? But still.
It's very much escapism fantasy. And I, as you say, I mean, it has allowed people to make great bodies of work beyond just the movies, like as a kicking off point, but that is what it was. It was space samurais at the start, and that's why I love it. And just to sort of give it context before we get into our ratings, I am not one of those 45-year-old people who pretends to love Star Wars but hates Star Wars. I genuinely love all Star Wars. Even when Star Wars is bad, I love Star Wars a hell of a lot. So
we've all seen your pod racer video, Tom.
Oh yeah. So if you think I'm being generous on these ratings, know that there's a cognitive part of my brain that knows a lot of these films aren't good. I'm still going to advocate for them to be about 2 or 3 tiers higher than what they should be. So,
and that's the only reason that Craig and I are here, is just to moderate.
Yeah, you need to rate me in. You need to rate me in.
Should we do the housekeeping? What films we'll be looking at? Why we're not doing some other films?
Yeah, so as I say, we're going to cover all the live action films that were released in cinema. So what I mean by that is that we're not going to cover the Clone Wars movie or series or the Mandalorian. We're not going to cover, as much as it pains me, the 2 Ewok movies. So you won't get Caravan of Courage here, nor will you get the Star Wars Holiday Special, despite it being a underrated work of genius.
Let me just regretfully move these out of S tier back into the bottom of this at the bottom. Tom's a coward.
Which way are we doing this? Chronologically, or like which way?
I think we should do it in canonical order, in terms of like we start at the earliest in the universe and we build our way up. So we'll start with episode 1, The Phantom Menace, do the original trilogy. Then we will do Solo and Rogue One. And then we'll do the sequel, the original trilogy. Then we will do the sequel trilogy.
Beautiful.
Wait, the second sequel trilogy. Oh no, because that's the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's the prequel trilogy.
Oh, see, this is going to be
the sequel, prequel, midquel trilogy.
How long is this going to be?
Well, the good thing about this is that anyone that's clicked on this knows what each film is. So we're not going to go through the synopsis of each film. We're just going to say, this is the film, this is what we think of it, and that's it. So if you haven't seen these films, it's probably not the video for you, but definitely like, share, subscribe, for God's sake. Anyway.
He needs this.
Oh, I'm buzzing off. I've got a Coke Zero and a green tea. I'm ready to rock.
I finished my Pepsi.
I came prepared.
You're dribbling.
One's drip.
What is dribbling? All over my keyboard. That's going to be sticky.
Oh, no.
Lovely.
Oh, well, on that note, shall we begin with a little film I like to call The Phantom Menace?
Others also like to call it that as well.
I don't like to call it anything, really. If I don't have to.
Released in 1999, it was the first film I ever saw in cinema. It's the story that starts the saga.
What did you do? What did you do at the end when the credits rolled, Tom?
What did I do when the credits rolled? What did I do throughout this film? I got up in my chair, arms abreast like this, and started applauding and going, yes! Yeah!
Favorite Tom fact right there.
Oh my god, that's the most wholesome thing. I wish I could have seen that.
I unapologetically love this movie. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I think it got hugely derided when it first released, but I think that there is a generation now that are coming around to it, that are getting nostalgic for it, and are seeing the the good and the plus sides to this film. This is the film that brought us pod racing, Darth Maul, so much backstory in terms of like the Jedi Order and everything like that. And for as much as it does do some stupid stuff, and it your mileage might limit with the sort of the politics side of things, I think it hurtles along at a pretty good pace. And I just have a lot of time for this movie. What about you guys?
I'm not as whole hog positive about it as you are. Don't get me wrong, enthusiasm is infectious, but it's not enough to make me overlook just a whole heaping bunch of shit in this movie that I'm not okay with.
You
For
do
a
have
start,
Jar Jar.
You have Jar Jar, you have Watto, you have little Annie Skywalker. It's just like, are you an angel? And there's like, you also have a cast, a rip-roaring cast of legends, like at their time, and also legends that they would become in the future. And they are just they're not helped. They're Mace Windu. Like you've got Samuel L. Jackson, Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor just hung out to dry, saying just the most vapid, weird lines. Just like you got Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson being like, the hyperdrive is leaking. That'll complicate things. And it's the most deadpan, crappy dialogue. And I think I gave it so much credit at the time, being like, they're Jedi. They're meant to emotionlessly state their lines. They're meant to be detached and, emotionless as they deliver them. But does Padme? Does Amidala?
She's meant to be royalty. She's got to follow procedures and things like that.
He's already defended that time code.
That's a
12 minutes in. Tom's defending.
I've seen a video where somebody described that as the Thermian argument, where it's something is stupid, but it's explained away in universe because of something that's made up.
You mean Doctor Who?
Yes, exactly. And but on the plus side, pod race. Duel of the Fates, the entire concept of Darth Maul. I think 3 of those things are kind of enough to justify it being well into B+ easily.
Well, that's the thing, and it's difficult as for probably Drew as well to detach it from what we know from the Clone Wars TV series that embellishes and expands on so much of the concepts launched in this film, and it's hard to, when you know all that, to look at it in isolation, because in this film, Darth Maul is probably wasted for what he could have been, but then you see everything he will become, and you're like, it's freaking awesome. He's awesome.
I mean, what? I don't know what you're on about, mate.
He's not even seen any of it.
He's chopped in half, and then he did a cameo in another film.
But it's how he gets from point A to point B that's freaking awesome.
Don't know about that. Can't judge that.
He becomes a spider.
He does become a spider, and he has a brother.
Oh my god! What was his name? It's a stupid name. What was it?
Sauvage Opress.
Mate, that's a type of latte you ordered the other day, isn't it?
Sauvage Opress is a perfume.
He's also voiced by Mr. Krabs. But in his defense, Darth Maul is a very cool design. Has got a very cool character design. Has some of the best fight choreography in any of the Star Wars movies, because Ray Park does the physical acting. And for the brief lines that he has, he's voiced by Peter Serafinowicz, aka Brian Butterfield. And so that's got to count for something.
It's really strange to me that when you read off all this additional information, that's actually more interesting than his actual role on screen for a lot of the time. Peter Serafinowicz, what? I didn't know that.
Neither did I. That's a major shock for me right now.
And it was just his grunts, apparently. So
he says, "At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge." But if it was Brian Butterfield, it'd be, at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
Isn't he the Tick as well?
He is.
At last, the Jedi reveal ourselves.
He's also the third roommate from Shaun of the Dead. So there you go.
Pete.
Pete.
My opinion on this film. Shall I give it?
Go on.
There is a reason when people say, you haven't watched Star Wars for the first time, they leave out episode 1 because it's not necessary. You talk about the backstory and stuff like that. Midichlorians, is it needed? Probably not.
That's a really good point. A lot of people do tend to, when they're doing like an anthology watch through of this, really leave out Phantom Menace.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Much like sand. It's
No, we'll get to it.
Is Jar Jar and Watto, are they more problematic now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They become
Absolutely.
more problematic as time goes on?
Yes.
They were problematic at the time, but nostalgia blinded people.
Yeah, and also I was 4 when this movie came out. I didn't know what caricatures and stereotypes were.
That's no excuse. Wake up.
Did you watch any other Star Wars films before this one?
I'm certain I must have watched the original trilogy because we had them on VHS, but I have no real like strong memories of watching them.
Can you remind me what year it came out?
99.
Oh, right.
Didn't even look at the screen for that. He knew that off the top of his head.
I can give you the month as well. It was
Can
May.
you tell me the date? Oh.
Was it May the 4th?
No, I think it was like May. Was it like May 13th or something like that?
Well, they missed an opportunity there.
Talk among yourself.
Yeah, it would have done so much better if they did it on May the 4th.
Imagine, though, the people going to see Phantom Menace on May the 4th, and then the movie is The Phantom Menace, though. So they have to sit with that.
Yeah, they should have done it on April 1st. You're right. That would have been a lot better.
Yeah. No, it's just I wonder because, like, I don't know if I had memories at that time. So I'm certain because my parents were massive Star Wars fans that they would have played the original trilogy, and maybe that helped to inform some kind of opinion. But I definitely saw this in cinemas. I don't remember how I reacted. I don't remember at all. Craig, were your parents Star Wars fans?
I suppose so. They're not always talking about it or anything like that, but I believe they knew I liked all that nerdy type of stuff, and I believe I watched the first 3 films before episode 1, and like I got Star Wars related gifts over Christmases and things like that, because as you mentioned earlier, you know, the toys is a big thing, isn't it? And that's essentially why Disney scooped it all up in the end to make more money. Yep. But I didn't think you would put this as B, Drew. If I'm being honest, I thought we would be lower than that.
I can't lie. There is a lot to like about it, and if you're very selective, and to be fair, a lot of movies I watch purely through YouTube clips now, and I've developed a manual rose tinted glasses that only allow me to remember the things that my brain will tolerate, and in my head. Fully, genuinely, Phantom Menace is just a pod race and a fight with Darth Maul, and that's the movie in my head. So I don't know if that's just I've selectively omitted everything that's terrible about it, but I'm willing to give it B tier.
It's worth B tier purely for the line, "I'll try spinning. That's a good trick."
Are you trying to help or hinder your cause?
I can enjoy it ironically, those bits like that. The thing is that a lot of people slate this film for various reasons, but one thing which I would defend it to the death is that it's not a boring movie. I think there's a lot that goes on in this movie that keeps it exciting. So even when it's a bit cheesy and a bit tacky, I think it's still entertaining. And I think B is probably about as high as I can go.
No, they introduced the concept of midichlorians in this movie. Oh, no.
All that mystery and intrigue around the Force. You're born with it, mate.
Blood cell. Genetic purity. That's what makes you a Jedi.
Liam Neeson sneaks up behind Anakin with a needle and just injects him with it, and that's how he's so special.
Darth Maul's just fucking mainlining midichlorians into his body. He's just got a drip feed set up with midichlorians so he can become more powerful.
Isn't that that's kind of the plot of, or the rumors around the Mandalorian about why they wanted Grogu was because they were going to harvest his blood for, Force sensitive clones. But
yeah, that's stupid, Tom. Master, what are midichlorians?
I'll tell you when you're older.
Craig, where would you put this?
I'd put us a D.
Oh dear!
Wow, Jesus!
If I was going to watch all these films again, which I will do next year with my partner, who hasn't seen the first episode 1 till 6, I will just tell her, well, here's a 5-minute YouTube video. We probably don't need to watch it.
Yeah.
And skip
Missing
it.
out.
You don't need plot. Just literally, just watch the pod race and the Darth Maul fight and move on.
So, but if you two feel that good about it, then I'm okay.
I feel that good about Ray Park.
Drew, if you feel that good about it, then I trust you know what we're doing, and I guess B is where it will go.
Yay! Okay, then we jump forward.
That's as high as you ever could have hoped, Tom.
I'm so happy.
It's too high. It's too.
You're
high.
bloody lucky.
Well, I will give you more leeway with the next film, which is 2002's Attack of the Clones, which takes place 10 years after The Phantom Menace and is not as good.
No, it's really somehow lower.
I mean, this is a film that does, again, introduce some cool stuff. We got Count Dooku, who is a cool character. You've got the war scene on Geonosis. That's pretty banging. You got some cool like mass Jedi fights. You got Jango Fett and sort of the whole sort of plot line of what's he doing and like where do the clones come from and everything like that. But there is a lot of wasted potential with this film, and a lot of the time is wasted with, even I have to admit, the whole Padme Anakin love pit is just awful. It's just awful. It's got its moments, that whole subplot line, because it shows Anakin slaughtering the Tusken Raiders, which is like his first sort of indication of like, oh, he's got the dark side in him. But it's just very, very, very poor. The whole sort of, I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, gets everywhere. Not like you.
Here everything is soft.
Smooth.
It's such a creep. I've seen edits of that scene where people have like added horror movie music to the background. It's delightful. They're like, if you remember, Tom, when we were doing our Spider-Man tier list, which we invited everybody to join into, and they said no. When we were doing that one, that laughter cut out very quickly. When we were doing that one, I pushed for Spider-Man 3 to be a lot higher on the list, purely because of its mimetic potential, and that laughing at Spider-Man had given me more joy than any other Spider-Man movie. So, but weirdly enough, Attack of the Clones has the exact opposite effect, and the memes about Star Wars Attack of the Clones only make me hate it more over time. Everything about it just makes me think, like you said, about wasted potential, about the beginning of the rise of Darth Vader, the turmoil of a galaxy being plunged into chaos and a galactic war that had been teased for like 30 years, and this is how it turned out. And even though I said that the pod race and Darth Maul fight saves Phantom Menace for me, I don't think Geonosis or anything saves Attack of the Clones. It's nothing before Geonosis is any good, in my opinion. And
the problem with the end of this film is that, again, if you hadn't seen all before the 2008 Clone Wars series came out, going from that end scene where it's literally Yoda saying, "Begun the Clone Wars have," and then it's like the roll credits, and it's just like the biggest cock tease, because it's like, I want to see the Clone Wars, and now we're going to pick back up at the end of the Clone Wars, and it's that frustrated me when I removed.
Tom, they made a TV show called The Clone Wars. You got to see it.
Yeah, okay? I know, but not in 2002 when I left the cinema. It was.
Is that what you were raging about?
I remember being quite cross that was how it ended. Yeah. What did you think about this movie, Craig?
I think if you're complaining about the Clone Wars, I think that's like artistic intent versus franchise potential. And I think at that point, they really knew what they were doing, didn't they? Some people don't know this about me, and I don't really say it that often. But Hayden Christensen is my favourite actor. I see myself in him a lot.
I quit UDS just today. I
don't want to know what you get up to with Hayden Christensen.
I can't work with these people.
No. He's better Anakin than the previous one. At least we can agree on that, right?
Hayden Christensen got a bad rap because nobody acts well in the prequel movies. They're doing the best with what they've got. And listen,
we still rated episode 1 a B, despite the fact no one acts well.
CGI. That's all.
At least that film is fun. This film is not as fun. That's the problem.
It's miserable.
Yeah. I remember just CGI in this, and just CGI everything. CGI here, CGI there. And middle films in a trilogy are always hard. This is not a good middle film.
No.
But I would argue that one of the middle films in this very list we do is one of the easiest S tiers I will ever grade, which shows they can do it, but this one's poor.
And we're both thinking about the same one, but we'll save that for later.
Last Jedi. Anyway,
were we not meant to be thinking of The Last Jedi?
No, we were absolutely not.
Oh man,
that's my S tier. Okay. I swear to God. We're gonna get into fights later.
This is gonna go on until 9 p.m. I know it.
Yeah, it is. All right.
Are we saying D for this?
I would say D.
Yeah, this is the one that I'm gonna give the D.
For deadly incredible. Is that what D stands for?
Diddliest catch.
When you give people the D, is it rough and coarse?
It gets everywhere.
Like saying, I get it.
Aha! Like you said in the film. You said the thing. But D doesn't mean unredeemable. Unredeemable. No, it's the worst rating that I could give on that list.
No, it gave us Dexter Jetster, which is one of my favorite ancillary characters. So
he was that diner guy, yeah. Craig.
What do you know, Kenobi?
I think episode 2 is the most forgettable out of all of them, right? At least with episode 1, you remember it being quite terrible. Episode 2, what really happens?
Let's give it D for being bland. But let's jump forward another 3 years, because all of these films used to come out every 3 years, with 2005's Attack of the Clones. No, not Attack of the Clones.
No. Fake fan.
Good job.
You didn't even know it. It's called Star Wars, not A New Hope.
Now we jump forward 3 years to Revenge of the Sith.
Don't you dare edit out your mistake. I know what you did there.
Now,
Revenge of the Sith.
When we talked about films that have over the years found redemption and a new audience of appreciation, this is one of the best examples. I feel like at the time, people were cross at this film. People were not happy with a lot that went down in this film. But since then, I see people rate this film up there with, the original trilogy in terms of like unironic enjoyment. And it's easy to see why. Like this is when you compare it to the previous two, where, it was either a lot of levity or a lot of blandness. There's actually quite a bit of gravitas and pathos in this film. And I mean, it needed to be, given the subject matter, because this is effectively where Darth Vader is born.
So I think that's where the problem lies, really. If you've been watching the original trilogy and you've had this in your mind, how did he get here? He must have really been pushed to his limits to make this switch over to the dark side, so to speak. People in their own minds have thought of these ways, and a lot of the people believed what they were thinking wasn't done as good on the screen.
You've got 30 years of fan fiction. And
exactly.
No reality is ever going to meet up to what you've already decided is headcanon.
Exactly. But I think they did a fantastic job. Like even the end bit with Anakin and Obi-Wan sort of, and some of the hammy dialogue in that, you can still feel
it hits.
Yeah. Like Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, "You were the chosen one" speech is delivered with a lot of passion, and it is hammy, it is over the top, but in a great way. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the perfect movie. Padme dying of sadness, it feels like a bit of a cop out. But aside from that, there's a lot to love in this film.
Is this the film where they obviously they redo loads of bits and edit out for re-releases? Is this the one where they edited in him going no?
Oh no, that was in the original version.
That was in the original version.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the no thing was never on the cutting room floor. That was
I know exactly what you're thinking of, Craig. You're thinking of Return of the Jedi when he throws Palpatine into the reactor.
Oh,
they added the no in there.
That's terrible.
Copy, paste.
Oh yeah. That's awful.
But it's the same no from this film, I believe. They just literally took the WAV and just put it over the top.
They just shortened it and pitched it down a bit, I think.
That's how filmmaking happens.
So terrible.
They got a YouTube clip and then just, exported to WAV.
Used by two mate to download it off YouTube.
But like, you're absolutely right. There's a real sense of pathos and gravitas to this one. I distinctly remember crying in the cinema when Order 66 happened.
My God, yes.
I was 10 at that point, and that devastated me because, like, yeah, sure, I was fully aware that the Jedi would generally become extinct, but their uncompromising willingness to show just how many times they could shoot them. All of my guys who I owned little Lego action figures of, just being like, okay, let's put these down. I'm not having fun.
Throw them in the bin.
You're dead. And that definitely made it less funny to play with the toy sets. And here we witness the genocide of an entire people. So, and but no, it hits. It's between John Williams' score, some really, really good cinematography and visuals in displaying it. That montage still makes me feel so sad watching it today. I think that they did Order 66 as good as it could have possibly been done, especially after hyping up all the Jedi in Attack of the Clones in that big Geonosis fight. That's one bit that, like, I've never changed my mind on. One that I definitely did change my mind on is the Anakin Obi-Wan fight, which is very much that goes on for like 20 minutes. I swear to God. It's just
it feels like because obviously they meet later on, don't they, under the different guises when he's Darth Vader and whatnot. And the original trilogy is just them speaking words, barely fighting. And on this one, they're on a volcano, they're levitating on rubbish. Oh, what's happening now? Oh, he's in the lava. And there's just effects everywhere. And it just feels so different to what it will be. Yeah, exactly.
It's really weird. And it's especially, sorry, Craig, I'm going to have to do this, but Tom will get it. The Obi-Wan Maul fight on Tatooine in Rebels, excuse me, just kind of highlights how less is more when it comes to Jedi fights in a lot of cases. How Luke, Vader, and Empire Strikes Back is kind of the example to follow, or Obi-Wan versus Maul on Tatooine and Rebels. They're kind of the example to follow. And Anakin v Obi-Wan is just a huge amount of screen noise. And the first minute is great, but then you realize there are 19 more after it. And it's like, okay, I mean, I know how this ends. I think that's it. That's the worst waste of time, is that you do know how it ends. You know exactly where all of the pieces on the board are going to end at the end of this movie. And the gravitas was seeing it happen, like the big events happen in a very short period of time, was like, wow. But we were watching a very, very small sword fight happen over a very large period of time, over lava, swinging on droids.
I can't believe he loses his legs in such a stupid way.
It's the high ground.
It's a hubris.
Yes, exactly. It's hubris. Oh, God.
I've read some readings of that where it was a meta-commentary on storytelling and heroes and villains, that Obi-Wan has the high ground because he's the hero, that he's the morally correct character.
You needed readings. You needed readings to be told that.
That's GCSE English level analysis there.
Yeah,
I would say my only point on the length of the fights and sort of, you know, the less is more argument. I do agree that the more Kenobi fight in Rebels is great, and I still enjoy the fight in A New Hope between Vader and Kenobi. I think the thing is that by that point, at least in my headcanon, Obi-Wan is that much older, he's that much more experienced. He is like the Grand Master who can, you know, use his, like he doesn't have to use the energy or the passion. He can just use like form and the art to sort of use minimal effort. Whereas this thing, they are both pissed, and they're just going to, and not only are they pissed, but they obviously know each other's moves beat for beat because they are, you know, master and apprentice, and so therefore they're going to be able to counter everything, they're going to be able to do everything. And so that's why it didn't bother me that it went on for so long and that it was such a well choreographed thing, because it's as much.
Here's my answer to that being they know each other's moves, is that one bit where they both go like that in front of each other, and whereas one of them could have just gone, and the fight would be over.
No,
It's like there's an outtake somewhere where Anakin's telling, Ben Kenobi, like, I'm just thinking about doing this sometime. And then he's like, no, I could overcome that really easily. And then shift to, and then it's just like, hey, yeah.
That is weirdly accurate because Hayden Christensen was really, really involved in the making of his character in Jedi fighting video games. And because he had to do all of like the live action stuff. And he was very insistent about some of the moves to be used. And the person who actually did like the sword fighting was like, who taught them all, it was like, that's, it looks cool. It's stupid. It's stupid though. But he's like, yeah, but I want to do this. So that's weirdly accurate.
Is that why when you defend in some of the Star Wars games,
his like pose was this? Yeah. And the guy who like did all of the fight choreography for Star Wars was like, that's a stupid idea, bro. And he's like, yeah, but it looks cool when I do this.
It's like the Simpsons joke. Hey, Chief, I'm just going to hold my gun sideways because it looks cooler. Yeah, you do that, Lou. You do that.
That's the thing. Never let the practicality get in the way of a good aesthetic. So, but we should probably rate. We should probably rate this film because otherwise we will literally be here for the next 2 hours. I'm giving this S tier. I think it's fantastic.
B.
A.
I guess it goes in A in the middle.
Shall we split the difference?
Okay. Can I just have a quick note? If you watch the original, episode 1 to 3 and then 4 to 5, it ruins the Yoda thing, and I think that's the biggest tragedy of them all.
Oh, that is a very good point.
So
the mystique and wisdom of Yoda is ruined by the prequel trilogy. He's an idiot.
They just build him up in the original trilogy so much, don't they? But then if you've watched these films, it's like, it's not worth all the hype, is he?
Oh, he does all those flippy cool stuff. He's tough. He's old. He's
Samuel L. Jackson's sidekick.
No, how dare you? Samuel L. Jackson's his sidekick.
Absolutely not. Definitely. Oh, you've just made me think of the bloody Yoda bouncing around fight with Dooku and Sidious and the fight with. Oh my god! No, there's worse things. B tier.
No, A tier.
I think if two of us agree with B, then surely it should go with B.
Fine, but just for the record, both Yoda and Mace Windu are the apprentice of Kit Fisto because Kit Fisto's the coolest looking of the Jedis.
Mate,
and he's got a Jamaican accent.
3 of the words you just said.
Kit Fisto is what I like to do to my girlfriend.
I'm putting episode 3 above episode 1, just so everyone's aware.
Okay. Yeah, same.
Well, now we move forward in human years very far to, I believe, 2018. But in Star Wars years, we move to Solo, which is the origin story, I guess, of one Han Solo. Takes place, I think it's a handful of years after Revenge of the Sith, the Empire are in full swing, and we get to see sort of some of the seedy underbelly of the Star Wars universe as Han Solo finds his name, his Chewbacca, and it's a thing that
find out why he shoots first.
Oh, there's so many. That is the big thing about Solo is, hey, you know that one throwaway line in that one movie? We're going to explain it for 20 minutes.
We see the Kessel Run, though, which is...
Oh, the Kessel Run, yay!
I liked the Kessel Run.
You ever wondered how the Millennium Falcon has a little bit of a hole in the middle of its front?
Or why the robot that they all say is a bit sassy. We find out that as well, don't we?
Why do they call Millennium Falcon a she? It turns out that it's sentient and it's voiced by Phoebe Waller-Bridges. That's exactly it.
So I've got 2 questions, right?
Go on.
Is this film necessary?
No, but no film ever made is really that necessary. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy it.
But that's double when it's a Star Wars film, though, right?
They chose this over several other stories. Solo, a Star Wars story. They chose this over several other Star Wars stories, such as a Kenobi
which
or a
we're going to
Dooku.
get.
Or a Dooku. Exactly. And they cancelled so many because this tanked so badly. And I kind of wish they had given it to any other character in the Star Wars franchise. Mace Windu. My God.
Don't get me wrong. There is a lot about this movie that is not good. And as you say, it does have, it feels a bit generic at times. I feel like a lot of the time you could have plastered another brand over it and it would have still been largely the same story. There are a lot of cool things that I really do enjoy in this movie, though. I like the idea that not all of the Empire is run by stormtroopers, that a lot of it is just grunts who are conscripted in, and that stormtroopers are actually kind of like the zealots. That's established in this film. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. I like the whole Red Sun angle as well. I think Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss is a cool character.
He was delightful. I love it when he gets to ham up.
Yeah.
But then, so I suppose we should distinguish now then, right? Because you're saying it's filling in the backstory and the universe, but does that make it a good film?
Well, I think there's a lot of in this film which I do enjoy, even just from like not even as like a lore dump, but as a film. I think the problem with this film is that it changed creatively about halfway through, and it's very clear where the original ideas were. Because I know it was Ron Howard that initially that would end up helming it, but was it Chris Lord and Chris Miller?
Yep, that's a
yeah.
Phil Miller, yeah. It was originally written as a comedy, an out-and-out comedy, a buddy cop comedy romp through space, you know.
And you can see that, like when Han first meets Chewie, and they're having the conversation in Chewbacca's language, and Han's doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's funny. You can tell that was originally sort of part of the original creative team, but then Ron Howard is he's a safe pair of hands, but also he plays it safe, and so that's where a lot of it starts feeling generic. So
it got Ant-Man very, very hard, I think, where something that would be a little bit more risque, but wholly unique was metered down and toned down to the point where it became completely forgettable at the end of it. Something that was so blandly audience tested that it just ended up lacking any kind of character or identity in and of itself. And I think that's something you could say, better or for worse, about all of the prequel trilogy, but they have character and identity.
The thing I would say that Solo has over like episode 1, for instance, is that the cast and their acting ability in this film, they act, mate. They act. If we're doing a Star Wars film with most acting, this would be up here. And it's a shame that most of the acting, it didn't help make the film any better, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
I weirdly liked Emilia Clarke when I normally don't like her in movies that much. Emilia Clarke had a nice little double twisty role. I'll never not like Woody Harrelson. And weirdly enough, What's-His-Face did a good Han Solo impression, I will say that.
Ansel... No, yeah.
That wasn't Ansel Elgort, was it?
What's he done since then? Is his career gone now?
Something Ehrenreich. What was his name?
Oh, Alden Ehrenreich.
That was it. He does look like Ansel Elgort, or whatever his name is.
Sure.
Also, Childish Gambino's in this. Donald Glover.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Doing a pitch perfect, stealing the movie performance as Lando Calrissian. That you'd think that would be enough for me to like Phantom Menace this and be like, yeah, it's perfect. Childish Gambino as Lando. No, it's still not enough.
Two other things which only I will enjoy. Oh, there almost goes my microphone. That they reintroduced in this film. One is the Imperial March is now canonically part of the Imperial recruitment video packages, which is funny. Also, it recanonizes the martial art of Terrace Kasi, which was the basis of a very poor PS1 game. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that.
This movie is purely for people like you, Tom. People who like to fill out pages on Wikipedia.
Oh, that's me. Star Wars historian Baker.
Let's rate Tom an S tier right now of happiness, shall we?
I am in my happy place. But I'm willing to give this film about a C, I think. I think that's in this, as I always say with these tier lists, we're not rating these in terms of films as a whole. This is within just comparison to other Star Wars films. So, yeah.
I was ready to give it a D, and then you reminded me that Childish Gambino was in it, and I remember enjoying that thoroughly. So I'd put it in at C.
Wow, I was going to say D, so I guess I'll bite the bullet and say C on that one.
Okay.
There we go.
Do love me some Gambino.
Well, now we jump forward to just before New Hope with Rogue One. That's the first Star Wars spin-off film, like non-numbered Star Wars film to be released. Effectively tells of the plans to get the Death Star schematics before the Rebel attack. And I'm going to put it out there. This may very well be my favorite Star Wars film.
Oh, it is the most divisive, I would say, amongst audiences of all Star Wars films, I'd say. Except maybe The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But when it came out, I had every reaction across the board to this film.
Well, that's the thing. When I first saw this, I think I was bored for the first half an hour. The first time I watched it, I was a bit like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this." But then the last 15 minutes are some of not just the best Star Wars cinema ever. Like, it may be the best cinema ever. Like, it's just fantastic. And I think after rewatching it, I appreciate, because I think the problem is that it's a Star Wars film being a spin-off that has to throw a lot at you in a very short amount of time. It's a whole new cast. It's a whole new sort of time in the universe. Whereas the other ones, you kind of have the fragments of like, this is what I expect. Like, it's going to have R2 in it. It's going to have a Skywalker or something like that. Whereas this is brand new. And I think I needed to watch it again to sort of appreciate this cast, because damn it, when the squad gathers together, they're fantastic.
Oh yeah,
you've got Donnie Yen, you've got Diego Luna, you've got so many, Daisy Ridley, you've got
Alan Tudyk.
What's her name? This is going to bug me now.
Who are we looking at? Felicity Jones.
Felicity, yeah.
Felicity Jones. Adam Tudyk is K2SO. K2SO, that's it. And the Scarif fight, it's great. They even little style choices, like the pilots the actors who played the pilots were told to grow out their mustaches and sideburns so that thematically it looked like it was like that retro futurism of the 70s. So that when you jump into A New Hope, they have the same sort of look to them. And I was just like, little things like that are just so
They
cool.
even pulled out its archive footage from A New Hope of fighters, and it blends so seamlessly that I wouldn't have even noticed the first time around.
It's amazing.
If I hadn't seen it already and thought, I know that. Yeah. That's brilliant.
It adds in an ample amount of lore with the Kyber crystals. I thought that was brought back into the universe without feeling, shoehorned in.
There are a lot of little things like it seems like a little thing, but the first thing that made me think, this is cool. Stormtroopers were dirty. I thought that was fantastic. Seeing like muddy stormtroopers on the ground, because this is a couple of years before Solo, no? After Solo.
Oh no, it released in 2016, but canonically it took place after.
I'm thinking of a release date, because that was like first side story coming out of it, and seeing dirty stormtroopers on the ground on the grind was just something really satisfying about that, to make it feel, and that was the first step, I think, to how successfully it was a Star Wars spin-off. It was the other side, the side not shown. And genuinely delivered on that aspect. It was Vietnam War Star Wars rather than big grandiose, hero fantasy Star Wars. It was ordinary people struggling real hard against overwhelming odds, and they completely delivered on that tone fully. And a lot of people have criticized the movie, I think quite fairly, on the two-dimensional team that they eventually do put together. Especially, I still don't know his name. I think it's Maze, Chirrut's friend with the big ass guns. And I was thinking they were going to develop him just based on his look into a ex-clone or one of those cast-off clones, because the Bad Batch look a little different from the standard clones, and I was thinking it was going to be one of them. But they never went with that. I got no clue what his backstory is, and they don't care to tell you. But with what they are given, they really, really shine. Alan Tudyk as K2 is hilarious, as rightfully so for him. And like I say, Donnie Yen as a blind, force-sensitive monk with a staff is just chef's kiss.
Oh, beautiful, perfect casting, and the end almost feels a little bit like a relay race, as sort of every member of of the crew unfortunately sort of meets their demise as they're kind of the Force determines that they've served their role in sort of the mission, and the pace of that end bit is just full throttle. And
edge of your seat.
We've not mentioned horror movie Vader, which is the best portrayal of Vader, where you've got rebel soldiers banging on the glass, shouting, help us, as this demon is coming up against them in a darkened room with like
a choir of demons going,
exactly. And it's just like everything he does, whether he's just like hurtling someone against the wall, impaling them with the lightsaber, it just feels so visceral, and I love it. And
I've rarely come close to cheering in a theater, just not the kind of outward reaction I have. Very few times have I done that, but when I saw Vader's lightsaber light up in that hallway the first time, I just saw him wreck shop in that scene. I was ready to be like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
And the fact that the very last scene is literally the first scene of A New Hope, that literally you could turn one off, turn the other one on, and it would effectively be one long movie. That is a gamble, but I thought it worked so well. It's worked so well. And there's not a lot that I can really criticize with this film. It just sort of hits all my tastes. What about you, Craig? Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I really can. There's a lot of setup and non-payoff to a lot of things. Like the greatest stars have hearts of Kyber. The idea of like a Kyber crystal not being coming in, and the Kyber being only used for the Death Star, but a lot of Chirrut's phrases made me think that he was going to get a lightsaber at some point, but he does not. That's not paid off. Fucking Saw Gerrera as like a whole character is like, what is your deal, bro?
He's in he's in the games, isn't he? Though.
Yeah, he's in the Clone Wars TV show as well, but he's in Fallen Order. Yeah, he's effectively just a rebel terrorist.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of unique characterization without much backstory. I think that was like a theme of the whole thing. Good characterization, but like weirdly, I did want a little bit more lore with these characters, and I guess we are getting that now with Andor.
Yes,
which will develop one of the more interesting characters.
Forrest Whitaker is one of those actors I really enjoy. He just does such weird stuff in every role he does, and I think here, flesh him out a bit would have been nice.
I do like his big brain spider octopus thing
gullet.
Yeah, it just makes him go.
The thing with this film, right? I really, really, really like this film. I think it might be my favorite Star Wars film. And the thing I have, I was told this, and I thought, you're right, that would have been better, is when Darth Vader we get to see his side of it in the middle of the film.
Yeah, in his palace.
Yes. Yeah. For dramatic impact, that last scene that Drew and Tom, you said is really good, and I agree with. How much more of an impact would that have been if you didn't know he was in the film at all, and then just that final scene was him just slaying fools? It would have been great, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I think that would have been improved for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from that, this is a great film. You could talk about Kyber, whatever you guys were talking about, but just from a story and action perspective, it's getting the group together to do this one task. They do the task, the outcome, and it's one of those things where, episode 3 was setting up how does he become Darth Vader, and it leaves it to your imagination, because this was such just a throwaway story beat that a film was made upon. Like, they fleshed it out so much to the point where it's so good because no one really cared about it. And I think not being part of a trilogy helps, but setting up a trilogy, it's one and done. There you go.
Yep.
Well,
it is the perfect prologue into that trilogy. Mm-hmm. Really, really seamlessly connects into it. I do have a question, which is, what did you think of fake Peter Cushing?
I wasn't as bothered by it as some people were. I think it's one of those things, like, it's like a new pair of shoes. It might feel a little bit awkward for the first few steps, but you quickly get used to it and you can lose yourself in it again. It's one of those things that you just kind of, you just accept that this is the best that they could do, and it's fine. I mean, there's other characters who are obviously CGI, obviously maybe not humans, but yeah, it works for me.
I suppose for me, it seems like his addition there, whilst it got people talking and was a little bit of press, I feel perhaps they were just doing it to help make the technology go a bit more advanced, because I don't feel it was necessary. I'm going to keep saying the necessary thing, but it feels like he doesn't add anything to the story, having that little bit of him, around the edges.
It's always going to be difficult when they make movies set in this part of if they do continue to make movies set in this time in the story, because they will obviously have to bring back people either who aren't alive anymore in the real world, or who are going to need tremendous de-aging software, which is probably less egregious when you look at like Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel. That looked pretty flawless to me.
What about Doc Ock in the upcoming Spider-Man film as well?
I think it's hard to judge on a trailer. I've seen a lot of unfinished CGI in trailers that has looked gorgeous in the final film, and he does not look okay in some of those shots in the trailer, but he looks brilliant in some others. So you can say.
Should we put this at S tier?
Yeah,
I want to say S. I have misgivings, but I can't lie. I love it. I love it.
More or less misgivings than episode 2.
Oh, Jesus, so much less.
Wow, we've still got 6 movies to do.
Yeah. We should probably
hurry the fuck.
Let's do a original trilogy speed round. New Hope obviously set the template for all Star Wars films to come. You know the story. You know how it goes down. I think this is a film that does a lot. Is full of heart, full of great characters, led by great actors. It still suffers a little bit from sort of having to set things up, so I don't think it reaches the lofty heights that will come. But oh man, I can quote this film like line for line. It's fantastic. I would put it high A easily.
The more time goes on, the more boring I find A New Hope, which is not to say that the end result is still at all boring. It's just, when it gets going, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But it does take a while to get going off of Tatooine, for instance. And while a lot of that, when directors and editors have that kind of movie blindness, I think there's a term for it when they're editing a movie together, where they have no idea what it's like to see the movie for the first time, and they could not possibly put themselves back into the shoes of the first genuine feeling they had watching the thing. I'd love to know what I thought watching A New Hope for the first time, because right now I watch it and I kind of know. Like you say, Tom, I could quote it off the top of my head, and I know where it's going, and it's just a little tedious to me to get through the first half of it. Maybe there's a lot to love still in the first half for sure, and it's got so much charm and like uniqueness, and there's so much talent on display. But I don't think it's aged as well as some of the rest of the original trilogy.
But then, they've remade it so many different times and they've changed bits and added this and that. Would you say that upon rewatching it, you see these different things? Does that help? Or
it worsens it?
It worsens it.
They don't fit. They're glaring. They're like marks on the top of it. You notice it more.
I mean, my favorite, I say favorite, the version that I grew up with and that still looks the best to me is the 97 special edition, which I think struck that perfect balance. Because if you go back and watch the theatrical cut, and it's hard to find like the real theatrical cut, because back then it got re-released a bunch. A lot of it does look pretty jank. Like the Luke speeder on Tatooine, they literally had to put like Vaseline on the lens to cover the wheels that were like on to make it look like it was flying and wasn't actually just a car. Whereas things like that, which were legitimate things that you could touch up with like minimal interference, they did that in 97. But after that, it goes out the wazoo. But
plus, when you blow these things up in HD on a home screen is like bigger than like half of the shit people would ever see. So like once you blow that stuff up to a huge size and remaster it in an HD, you need to touch up quite a lot of things. Exactly. So I don't blame them. I don't blame Lucas for a lot of the changes. Like you say, Tom, the 97 DVD release, that was a video release. Sorry, that was a good version of the film, I think. that I was satisfied with. It was when he started adding in CGI, those CGI lizard things that the stormtroopers ride on Tatooine.
Yes,
Is this the one where he gets rid of Wolfman, or is that another film as well?
Wolfman's still in the final one in Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm misremembering.
At least I hope he's still in there.
So. And Satan.
Yes, weirdly, Satan's there.
The red eyes guy.
Yeah,
there's a guy with red eyes and horns.
Satan's just there, and he's just like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Right, yeah. Shall we solid A?
Yeah, solid A for me.
I love solid A.
Yeah, the sequel with Emma Stone, solid A.
Easy A, then solid A, then runny A. Well, speaking of decent sequels, Empire Strikes Back, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Best tier, go on.
Straight away.
There's not that many perfect movies out there. I think that's a perfect movie.
It just goes to show what happens to the Star Wars films when you take them away from George Lucas and give them to a different director. It's fantastic. It builds on everything that came from before, adds in some great character development with Han and Leia particularly, should I say. The whole of Hoth is just awesome. Vader becomes a bigger badass, adds in all the intrigue with the Empress. All of a sudden, he's not the biggest bad in the universe. There's someone that even he kneels to. And the Vader father reveal is just cinema history by this point. I
would say the entire Luke Vader fight at the end will go down there. While I do probably, rate Rogue One as my favorite Star Wars movie, the Luke Vader fight will be my favorite Star Wars moment, full stop, throughout all of the franchise, from starting off in the Carbonite room, moving out into the more quiet, sneaky bits, to that final bit where they're on the balcony, shots of his hand with the "I'm your father" reveal. It's absolutely the best cinema that has been sort of made in that genre. I can't imagine anything being better than Empire Strikes Back at what Empire Strikes tries to do.
And we got Lando.
It's amazing. And we get Lando.
Hello, my mic fell over.
You were so thrown by the Lando.
It was just so convincing. So convincing. Craig, what do you think about Empire?
I agree with everything you two have said. It's middle films are hard. You want to tell an intriguing story whilst also build hype for the next one. And I think this one does do an intriguing story and then builds perfectly to the next one. There are a few questions in it that, fan theories and stuff have dug into ever since it was released. But on the whole, I think it's a solid film.
Yeah.
Above Rogue One or below Rogue One?
Oh, below Rogue One, definitely.
You think?
Yeah. I would have said above Rogue One.
I would be inclined to put it above it purely, even though I personally prefer Rogue One. I do think Empire is probably a better movie and more significant for all of Star Wars.
But are we doing this on what you think or how you feel personally?
Oh, yeah.
Because you've just said it's better.
Because I only put Rogue One in S because I feel it's an S. I think it's an A.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is do you go with your brain or do you go with your heart?
Search your feelings, Tom.
Search your feelings.
So we come back to it at the end, or do you want? Oh no, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, let's rile up the comment section. Put it below Rogue One.
Oh. Do you know your idea where we were going to put the final tier list in the thumbnails just to see how people would react?
Bring it on. I want to know what people think.
Phantom Menace in B tier and Rogue One at the top of S tier.
Oh, people love you love to see it. People are going to love it.
Thanks for getting rid of the dislike button.
Oh, we can still see it on the inside. We can see how much hate we're getting.
We'll see the stats.
Well, as we search our feelings, let's move on to 1983's Return of the Jedi. What was at the time assumed to be the end of the saga. This is a film that makes my camera go blurry, apparently.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Ooh, there we go. We step back a little bit in terms of quality with this film, I think. I think that this is a film that it does do, again, some cool stuff. I think Jabba's palace and the whole heist to steal Han back is pretty cool. I like the rapport between Nyan Nub and Lando, and in fact, probably the whole of the final battle sequence in space. Ewoks and Endor is a bit of a mixed bag. Your mileage with Ewoks is going to vary a little bit. I don't mind them. I think they're fine. I think Star Wars has always been full of kind of like cutesy little weirdos. I mean, you got Jawas,
like Darth Vader,
and Anakin played by Jake Lloyd, and I think the final confrontation between Luke and Vader is pretty great. I think the Emperor hams it up better than anyone in Star Wars. Ian McDiarmid as the this just decrepit old guy.
Not in this one.
I mean, he is decrepit and old.
But he's not Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah, he is.
Ian McDiarmid was in the fucking prequel trilogy and
no, it's the
Rise
same
of
guy.
Skywalker. What?
He's old.
What? Tom, what? No, what?
Yeah, no, he didn't play him in the original release of Empire, but that's definitely him in this one.
Ian, that's it. What? No, that's not Ian McDiarmid in Return of the Jedi.
Yes, it is.
Fuck, I'm Googling this. You're lying to me.
It absolutely is.
Yep, it is.
No.
Yep. Wikipedia never lies.
That is mad. I thought he had only come in on the prequel trilogy.
No, sorry.
Alan Webb was originally cast in the role, but he dropped out due to illness.
Some bloody fan I am. What? Oh my God.
There you have it.
Excuse me, I'll come back to you. You talk amongst yourselves.
Well, Craig, what do you think of Return of the Jedi?
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard because this was the original ending.
C-3PO is a god in this film.
I mean, he's a god in every film, if you ask me. Especially that special edition trading card that no one can ever get their hands on.
He's a false god. I hate C-3PO more than anything else in the Star Wars franchise. I hate C-3PO.
If you take this film as the original trilogy, I think it does a good job at tying up the loose ends. When it comes to all the extra canon that you yourself, Tom, are engulfed with, I don't know how well it does it for that. Maybe it raises a few questions as well. And then over the course of the years, with the Force Ghosts and Hayden Christensen being put in there, can only make it better, in my opinion. But I think it's the ending to the trilogy, and it ties up all the loose ends in the best way they can. And it's okay. I don't see anything bad with it. It's not D. It's not a C.
The only thing that lets this film down a little bit is that it does recycle the Death Star as a trope, which, I mean, we're going to get onto that it's done at least once more. But
it does seem foolish of a galactic empire to be like, hey, you know that thing that failed so catastrophically last time? They should do it again. Let's do another one.
That's just humans, though, isn't it? That's what we do.
Is it though?
World Wars.
We did do 2 World Wars.
The problem is that canonically it's about twice as big as the first one, but because it's in space, you've got no frame of reference to actually measure that against. So it just looks exactly the same as the first one.
In space, no one can see you do Pythagoras' theorem. So.
It would have been better if it was like Malibu Stacy. It's got a new hat. Then we would have known. That would have been better.
Yes. Well, no, we know it was different because it was just a bit empty. It'd been on a diet. It lost some weight.
Yeah, it's got a hole in it. It's holy. Death Star 2 Electric Boogaloo. That would have been a catchier name, especially because it can shoot better lasers.
We do get Admiral Akbar in this film as well, which is great.
Oh, joy. Sorry, it's too sarcastic. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck.
I do prefer Nyan Nub because all he does is go next to Lando.
Yeah, that is great. And Lando just says, I'm trying.
and Lando's wearing Han's clothes in that entire scene. If you look, he's wearing Han's outfit. It's weird. It's so weird. Funny.
That's my favorite thing in all of Star Wars is somebody says something in alien gobbledygook and somebody goes, I know. It's my favorite thing they do because it just never goes with explanation. There's never a Babel fish. Everybody just can understand R2-D2 at all times. It's so funny to me. They're like, what? And they're like, what's your language?
Oh, you know R2D2's a potty mouth. He's got
He's
some bad language.
swearing constantly. He's calling everybody everything under the sun.
Oh.
Now, Return of the Jedi, like I said, like there's a list of Star Wars moments that make me feel things. Yeah, feeling things like Rogue One on the beach where everybody dies and they hug, and then like Revenge of the Sith at Order 66. The bit where Luke goes ape shit against Darth Vader, underneath it and starts never. And just the music, that one long shot parallel to them fighting, and when he finally beats him down and decides not to. That's just like a pitch perfect hero moment in all of everything. The ending with the celebration and the woo, it just fills you with just perfect joy. I'd love it. I'd be so happy if the franchise ended there, and like I never knew what happened next, because that's just pure joy. At the end of Return of the Jedi, I fall down on the side of the older I get, the less I like Ewoks, but I can totally see why people like Ewoks for sure. They are cute. I like porgs. I can't lie. So yeah, like Ewoks. It's fine by me.
Ewoks are a representation of the Viet Cong. I hope you know that.
It's really goddamn racist.
And how,
George Lucas.
on a tier list, Tom, where would you rank Viet Cong?
The Viet Cong, I mean, in terms of beating the US military, very highly, because they did a good job. But
they won. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, undefeated.
Bungee pits, baby.
Did him out. Anyway, in more Star Wars related news, I would put this in a low A.
So so you would rank the original Star Wars film called Star Wars before it?
A New Hope, yes.
Okay.
No, Star Wars. I was going to put it in a very high A above all of the rest of our high B above all of the rest of our Bs, which I'm rethinking now. But I'll set it for a low A.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well.
Awesome. Well, 3 more to go, and oh boy, it's going to get spicy. We're talking The Force Awakens, the first of the sequel trilogy, released in 2015. Takes place a number of years after Return of the Jedi. Empire's come back. It's now called First Order. The New Republic is in disarray, is now basically only being held together by the Resistance, which is the stand-in for the Rebel Alliance.
Does anyone else find it funny that Tom says we're not going to recap these films, and he's done that for everyone?
I do it like, at least I'm not doing it beat for beat. I'm not reading anything off my screen. It's just off the top of my head.
So is this called the Skywalker saga now? Is that right?
The set of 9 movies is called the Skywalker saga.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the rest of them are Star Wars stories.
Okay.
This is a film that the first time I saw it, I think I was sort of overwhelmed a bit by sort of, the occasion of Star Wars coming back after so long of not thinking it would come back. Yeah. And also, it's a very, very well-made movie, but the problem is it's a story that's been told before, not just in cinema, but in Star Wars. And it does do some stuff that's new and cool. I love the idea of Kylo Ren as the petulant sort of teenage
bratty,
Vader wannabe,
temper tantrum wannabe.
I deserve it.
Yeah, exactly.
The best idea for a Star Wars villain, a school shooter, basically.
That would have been a better story.
I can take no credit for this, but someone said online that Kylo Ren in this movie is what Anakin should have been like in the Revenge of the Sith. In terms of just like, literally taking his lightsaber, smashing it against the console just for, the sheer like frustration of it all. I love Kylo Ren in this movie. I love Kylo Ren through most of this trilogy. In fact, I think he is one of the strongest points of this. But I mean, the Starkiller base is effectively the Death Star, but again,
times 10 or something,
just a
right?
bit bigger. Yeah, it's a planet.
They even have a line where they're like, "Oh, it's another Death Star," and they're like, "I wish that were true," and it is true. It is in fact true.
Well, audience, have we got a thing for you? Look at this diagram.
There is a lot of expanded universe on Starkiller Base, which does make it kind of cool. Like it's carved out of the planet Ilum, which is where the Jedi would go to get their kyber crystals.
No, that's Ilum.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dark. That's sad.
Yeah, it's the idea that like the First Order have taken over one of the holiest Jedi planets. And
where do they get lightsaber crystals after that now in the canon?
well, I guess there aren't any Jedis really left, so
Where'd she get her yellow bad boy? I suppose they could just scavenge, but
yeah,
like
there must be some there must be other planets that have got like some crystals lying about or whatever.
why did they go to the icy Hoth planet then and put the children through a grueling endeavor to get their crystals then? Take them to the Hawaii planet to get their crystals.
Aloha, vom. Aloha,
No.
I enjoy Finn in this film. I think the opening of it is, the blood on the stormtrooper helmet. It's really it changes this is that type of Star Wars, when really no, it's very similar to the other Star Wars that you already know. And then I think the audience is thinking one thing, like he's in shock because of what he's just seen. But apparently in the extended universe, it's because he saw his friend die, but you don't think that at all when you watch it.
Yeah, they have a backstory. His friends, I think his name's Skip or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, they were longtime friends.
So this film, I think, does play it safe with the Star Wars formula to its detriment, and the new bits that are in it are just nice little sparks. But then obviously you have all the old stuff, and just the pace, I suppose, from the old films is what stops it from being as good as it could be.
Yeah,
there's a sense where I think that this is as much as it could have possibly done, that I don't think a return to Star Wars could have been approved by anybody if it wasn't just harping full back to the nostalgia of the original trilogy, playing all the hits, bring back the Millennium Falcon, bring back the original cast, make all of that stuff, and then basically make it a remake of A New Hope. And I don't think, for such a inherently nostalgic property, they could have delivered on anything people actually would have wanted to see, like a new story with new developments or a different way of telling that style of story. I don't think anybody would have ever said yeah to that. That was the opportunity to come after this one had set it up. And so I have this kind of genial acceptance with Force Awakens, where, yeah, don't get me wrong, I bloody well cheered when the Millennium Falcon came up and it comes up and you hear all the music again for the first time in a decade or something like that, and you see lightsabers light up for the first time in a decade. That was an amazing feeling, but it was always tempered with the knowledge that, like, okay, now where do we go from here? And
exactly.
It's a solid 8 out of 10, it's never going to be exceptional.
But what is that in letter form on an S to D scale, Drew?
A.
Yeah, I would put it in A. The only thing that disappoints me about this film in hindsight is that it does set up some cool stuff that just never gets built on. Like the bit where she first finds the lightsaber in Maz's basement, and you hear all the voices, and then then at the end
Obi-Wan tells her this is your first steps, and Obi-Wan of course never features the whole rest of the thing.
It's weird, isn't it?
Didn't someone whisper Rey? Is that Obi-Wan?
Yeah, that was Obi-Wan.
That was, they'd taken archive audio of Alec Guinness and made him say Rey.
Yeah, that's so cool. Stuff I like that. Yeah,
and that never comes through. Obi-Wan plays no part in her story, and that fueled a whole heap of theories that she was Rey Kenobi, just purely because of the prevalence of Obi-Wan stuff in this one, and it's a JJ mystery box, like through the core. You guys have all heard that TED talk that he does, and that he poses a lot of questions and does not answer them, but you accept it because it's movie one in a planned trilogy. Planned in a planned trilogy. So you think this is okay for what it is, as long as these questions are going to be answered later. So on its own merits, Force Awakens is perfectly good.
Yeah,
I think it's only ever soured by how the series ends, I think.
Yeah, I still remember that first moment in the film, of seeing the film in the cinema and thoroughly enjoying it, because, as you say, it did what it needed to do. It played it safe, but it reintroduced the universe. I would put it mid-A.
Between New Hope and Jedi, then?
Yeah.
Yeah, same. You, Craig?
Yep. Sounds good to me.
Well, now, this one's going to be interesting. 2017's The Last Jedi. arguably the most divisive Star Wars film ever made.
The nerds awaken.
Before we get into anything else, I do want to say, in my opinion, this is the prettiest Star Wars film ever made. It is gorgeous. Some of the cinematography in this movie,
gorgeous. Yeah, the use of red throughout the whole thing is just you can see the poster on the tier list, and I'm already thinking, this is a gorgeous film.
It's just and just even the use of sound, like when there's the Hodor maneuver, Holdo, that's it.
Hodor.
Oh, it's getting late.
No.
The fact that just goes to silence when there's this like catastrophic bang, and it's just like, I've never gotten goosebumps in a Star Wars movie like that, I don't think. But it's also, it takes a lot of gambles, this film, for better or worse. And again, depending on your outlook, that is going to either be a good thing or a bad thing. I think most of them, had they doubled down on them in the 9th film, would have been fantastic. I think the whole idea of Rey being kind of like a nobody who's just kind of been, thrust into the universe's stage as limelight by the Force, and the whole idea of the rebels and the Resistance and the First Order buying their weaponry and their ships from the same sources, and that it's all kind of just like a political game, really, that you either are in or you're not. That's all damn cool, but it's also tarnished a bit that we never got any more of that. But I
do think there's a real shame that everything. I think that no matter what direction they would have ever gone, whether this would have fully appeased the people that hate The Last Jedi and delivered what they wanted to see, I still wouldn't have minded as much if they had followed through with it, with whatever they had decided. And this is retrospectively tarnished, I think, by how little this matters.
Is that this film's fault?
No.
What you just said, retroactively thinking that it's... we're not talking about number 9 right now.
But nothing exists in a vacuum, though.
No,
I mean, like, knowing, you can't unknow what you know. And there's a lot of things that, like, would definitely change my feelings about the rest of the Star Wars universe based on, I mean, the whole movie Solo itself cannot exist in a vacuum. Like, I think it's important to weigh up how the other movies have affected each other, and that my enjoyment of The Last Jedi makes it hard to sit through, because I'm like, this is all pointless. This is going to be retconned in a year.
When I watched this film, on the way home, I went to book another screening of this film.
Oh,
this film,
that good.
In my opinion, at the very least, is tied up there with Rogue One, because people complained that Episode 7 played it too safe, and I already like. Is it Ryan or Rian Johnson?
Ryan Johnson.
Looper's one of my favorite films, and he just came in here and was like, "You'll think that's too safe? Well, I'm going to show you what I can do." And he obviously you talk about the arms dealer and stuff like that, and there are things in this film that never go anywhere. And then you also got to think that, was it Carrie Fisher passed away during this film?
Just
after. So I think people were saying, well, what's going to happen to her in this film? And ultimately that builded towards the hype as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
This film, just from a story perspective, I feel is unique to Star Wars. Yes, it's the middle chapter. You don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like it's Finn and Rey just exploring, really, and you find I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, so having this different world where you have just the capitalism in the capitalist society with the weird dog racing and stuff like that, and the build up near the end where the kid has the Force with the broom and stuff like that. He got one of the midichlorian needles injected into him somehow.
Yeah.
And whilst we know that the next film squandered all that potential because of JJ. I don't think that is this film's problem. And you leave this film just thinking, what's going to happen next? Because this film just
I don't anymore.
bangs it out of the park so well.
Which I didn't know.
yeah, exactly. And that's what, because of just how different this film is, I think it deserves to have an additional accolade, because you go in there expecting, well, it's a Star Wars film, you know what's going to happen. But just during the film, I was like, what's going to, now what's, what? And then,
very well spoken. Yeah.
I mean,
well, thank you, Drew. That means a lot coming from you.
Oh, yeah. You're right when you're right. I think, you're right. Absolutely.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Craig, but I don't think we should give accolades purely for being different, because if there was just 90 minutes of Mark Hamill soft serving out a poo out of his bum into a cone, that would be pretty different to the rest of the Star Wars films. Doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Definitely would pay to watch that, though.
That is great. No, you're wrong. That's great. You chose a bad example there.
All right, bad example.
Carrie Fisher put
You forgetting he's a forced ghost and all this rubbish that made people so angry, but during that time, he's getting blasted by everything, and Kylo Ren is just being the most Kylo Ren brat, throw my toys out of the pram sort of thing.
That's one of the funniest bits in the Star Wars franchise is the more.
Yeah. And during that time, you're thinking, how? Just how? And obviously it all becomes uncovered, and what happens next, we all know. But during that time, the wonder of that film irked me back to when I was a child, not knowing what is going to happen next.
The thing is that there was some stuff in this film which I feel like set itself up for missed potential, though. The first and most evident example is Snoke being killed off so readily and so easily. I think unless they had a really good idea of what to do there, which they didn't.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
You just reminded me of that fight scene when Kylo Ren and Rey are together.
Yeah, that's good.
That one shot where he gets ignited the lightsaber, it pulls forward into the background, and then her hand reaches up and grabs it, and the music starts up.
Fight scene.
I genuinely cheered. I just
imagine the next film where it's like they're going to team up again, and you're just like, yeah, they are, but yeah.
I think that was one of the best things they did in this movie, because it seemed so obvious. The minute he took the helmet off and it was pretty boy Adam Driver, I was thinking, oh God, they're going to redeem him in the end. He killed his dad and everything. He was mean, but they're going to redeem him because Darth Vader happened. And I was so pleased at the end of The Last Jedi when he went full force, like, I'm a terrorist, bro. I was pleased. Yes, exactly. The minute he chokes little Donald Gleason, what's his name?
Oh, Hux.
The minute he chokes Ginger Space Nazi Hux, and just I'm the supreme leader now, and just immediately seizes power and takes control, I was so pleased. And then they backpedaled again. But in that moment, I really like you say, Tom, that's a lot of things that people were irked by, is that a lot of the subversion of expectations felt like subversion for the sake of subversion, not necessarily because it had any it paid off in a narrative sense. Like, killing Snoke is in itself a very disappointing thing. Killing Snoke is like revealing that the Mandarin is Ben Kingsley, the actor, and it irks a lot of people. And it was like, oh, but you've raised a question and then didn't answer it, so that's deeply unsatisfying. And so that only works as a surprise element, as a quick expel of, whoa, where's this going to go next? But I think that the benefits that those subversions left far outweigh any negatives. The idea that all of the heroes were wrong, that Luke is a coward, that Finn is an idiot, that Poe is reckless and endangers the lives of everybody else.
He's a knob in this film.
It's a real knob. And to be fair, Holdo is also a knob, but she's the more correct of the knobs while Leia is passed out.
The one thing about Holdo that annoys me about this film is that she had a good plan. I don't know why she just didn't tell him, rather than just letting them.
He
perform
did
a mutiny.
disobey a lot of direct orders earlier on in the scene and caused the deaths of quite a lot of people for the sake of boomy boomy poo poo.
I know we're going to wrap up about this film, but the more we talk about it, the more I'm thinking about everything I've forgotten about this film, and I want to watch it again.
I really do.
The most out of these. At
the bare minimum, I would love to watch the throne room scene and the bit where Luke walks out like a badass and just faces down everybody. Oh, it's so good.
I don't think this film is as good as Rogue One or Empire. I still think it's good, but I don't think it's as good as those two. I would put it at the top of A, or if it satiates you, the bottom of S.
I'll accept the bottom of S.
I will accept that as well. You know,
okay.
I think that's.
I feel like
I would fight for the middle of S, but
someone is going to shut down this YouTube channel based on this rating.
I mean, I would put it in the middle of S as well. Why not?
Oh, okay. Are we overruling Tom, Star Wars Tom?
I mean, Tom has been excited for many of these films, and I feel like me and Drew have said a love of this film to the Tom Baker-esque style, and I feel like those thoughts and feelings should be appreciated. How do you feel, Tom?
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Democracy simply doesn't work.
There we go. Middle of S.
Well, let's move on to episode 9, when we can probably all be in some agreement, at least where it goes. The Rise of Skywalker. Wow.
Is it a rise? What's it rising?
I tell you what, in its defense, the first time I walked out the movie, because I watched this movie at midnight, it was part of a triple bill screening where 7 and 8 played up until midnight. Then midnight struck, this one came out. So I was in prime mood to watch this film. And I remember leaving the film buzzing, thinking that was amazing. And I think it was only about a week or two later that I really started thinking about it and talking to other people. The plot holes and the picking parts just sort of like melted away my love for this film. And I think that's the thing. I think this film is popcorn. It's great in the moment. It does all the bangs and the flashy things and sort of the emotional heft. But at the same time, it leaves you feeling hollow and unsatisfied. And given, you know, it's like having a gourmet sort of 3-course meal where, you know, you've had your starter, you've had your main, and, you know, you've had a couple of like drinks in the forms of the spin-off. You're feeling full, you're feeling ready, you're ready for that dessert to finish you off and see off the evening great. And then it's a pound-land kebab or something like that. It's just not what you want. And
a frozen pound kebab. Yeah. And you got to reheat in the microwave.
Exactly. And you're like,
got to reheat with the warmth of your own hands.
Yeah.
You've got to put in work to enjoy this.
And
Tom, when I first started UDS, and obviously I'm the movie guy, I don't listen to the amount of music you guys do. So I hopped right into the movie section, see what articles had been written. And out of like the 3 that were there was Tom Baker in defense of Rise of Skywalker. And I was like, we need to make some changes around here.
I tell you what,
give me a pen and quill.
There is a lot of this film I still love. I love the interaction between Han and Kylo. I thought that was a really, really cool way of sort of signing off both Leia and Han together in terms of, like, you know, what they could do with Carrie Fisher unfortunately passing away. I thought that was a really good way of sort of consolidating that arc. I unapologetically love the big space battle with just an infinity Star Destroyers, because that's literally what I would have done with my toys in my head as a kid. I'd just be like, you know what's scary, the one Star Destroyer or the Star Destroyers. And and then it's like, oh, what's the only thing that can beat him? All the other ships in the galaxy, all just taking him on at once. And Nyan comes back.
Would you put 10-year-old you in charge of a $1 billion franchise to write the script?
Let's have them on horses on one of them instead. Yeah,
they're gonna ride buffalo across these infinite star destroyers, and the Emperor is there for some reason. It does have the feel of a kid playing with Lego. It's like mixing different sets together. It's like, oh, and Force Ghost there, and the Emperor turned up. Don't ask me how.
Yeah, it's like, Timmy, why is Emperor back? I thought he died. Somehow Palpatine has returned.
Just as
Sith magic cloning.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Palpatine's here.
This is the most Star Wars film where everything and nothing happens at the same time, and that's how I describe this film, because like the Palpatine thing coming back, and then oh, I guess that's why Rey's the way she is. That's not as interesting, I suppose. But then they wrap up the story with a happy ending, similar to the original trilogy, which was nice. It's just...
Is it happy, though? See, somebody else pointed this out, where they were like, okay, so narrative arcs. You go from somewhere wanting something to finding out what you need, and you end up somewhere different. And if anything, the core part of... This is where we get into the things that it betrayed about The Last Jedi, where Rey started the franchise a scavenger on a desert planet, all alone with BB-8, sliding down things and talking to old women. And she ended the franchise on a desert planet, all alone with BB-8, who's not really great conversation, let's be honest, and sliding down things and talking to old women. And in a sense, that I find it kind of sad how no one went anywhere. How Finn didn't find the people. Like he was an ex-stormtrooper who all he ended up doing was finding the female version of himself. And they don't talk. They have one conversation about how similar they are, but then she goes and she ends up being Lando's daughter, if I remember the expanded universe stuff very well. She goes and talks to him. Finn is really left like totally unmoored in this movie and alone. And then Poe Dameron starts off as a hotshot solo fighter, and he ends as hotshot solo fighter. He never really learns anything in this movie or grows beyond how he started in The Force Awakens, or even builds on the conflicts and like the flaws that they pointed out with all of these people in The Last Jedi. And it makes me really sad thinking they went nowhere. They backpedaled so hard.
That's the thing. This film tries to tell 2 films worth of stories in one go. It tells J.J. Abrams' episode 8 and then adapts Colin Trevorrow's episode 9, which sounded way more interesting. And I think that's why another reason why I loved it when I first saw it is that it is such a shock to the senses with the amount of stimulation you get. It is just like one thing after another. You cannot be bored watching that film the first time because it's just next thing. We're here, we're there, we're doing everything. Yeah. And then it's only when you process it afterwards that, you start to understand that, as you say, it is kind of a hollow experience.
Popcorn.
It dazzles. Yeah. It dazzles you to, stop you from thinking. It just keeps moving forward relentlessly, so you never dwell on anything long enough to think about it. So it's just mindless beauty. And then afterwards you realize Rose from the last film is barely seen, which
is like 2 lines.
And it's like, well, I think they are doing reactions from the internet at this point, and it just makes me sad how she was integral to the last film and she's just in the background now.
Yeah, that really, really stung. How that they fully just reacted. I think that makes it bitter as well. Like, it's not where I find it hard to take the movie on its own merits. Knowing how much of this was a reaction to fan reaction to The Last Jedi and comparative fan reaction to The Force Awakens, knowing how much of that was not planned, how much of it was vetoed and changed in the studios behind the scenes. It's not the kind of movie that you think of as messy as Solo, but it really is as messy as Solo behind the scenes.
He said it. He said it.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's no wonder it came out like this. It's so confused.
Yeah. I mean, so the best part of the film I enjoyed was Han just showing up, because I thought that was, just because as far as I was aware, Harrison Ford hates Star Wars now, and just seeing him there was like, I got the surprise, that the film before it was giving me all the time. So things like that, but that's like nostalgia playing off the original films altogether, isn't it? That's not creating new moments.
Trick before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
plus Reylo happened, and that was gross and weird to me. She really forgot that he was a mass murderer for a second and was just like, Adam Driver, he just look at his ears and his nose, and I'm just gonna kiss him, and he dies. That was the strangest thing, because they had not, when they were having their Force time throughout this one and the last time. Those are my favorite parts of some of my favorite parts of The Last Jedi, and some of my favorite parts of this one as well. When they're having their fight and they're going between the two places and they hit the Vader statue and they figure out where it is. I thought that was clever. That's a really neat way to deliver on what was set up in The Last Jedi between their little Force time. But in no way had they implied that they had any romantic feelings for each other whatsoever.
Except for when he's like Ben Swallow and he's got like his big old chest out in...
that was in the previous film, wasn't it?
Exactly.
So
it doesn't matter, does it? It's retconned. He never got his shirt off in this version. He's a shrimpy bitch.
In this film, don't they mention that Palpatine was the one that was connecting them both?
Yeah.
And no one really bothered asking that question. So this film answers questions no one asks, but still isn't able to answer the ones we care about.
It's Solo. We got the Kessel Run and we got nothing else.
And where would you put this?
I would put it below... Do I put it below Attack of the Clones?
Oh my god! I thought you of all people were going to put it at least in C, because you liked it, Tom. You liked it,
but I also liked Attack of the Clones. So,
oh my god,
I would put it above Attack of the Clones.
Is that in D?
No, Attack of the Clones is in D.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry, my mistake.
So you're putting it at highest D.
Highest D.
So just before this, we're saying that Solo is better than Rise of Skywalker.
I would rather watch Solo again right now than Rise of Skywalker.
Jesus. That's so damning. I need a minute to sit with that.
This list is going to annoy me, let alone anyone else watching.
I think I agree. I would watch Rise of Skywalker if I'm just watching a Star Wars watch through again, and then you have to watch the ending, don't you? So I would more likely, I've seen Solo once. I'm sure there's bits in there I would enjoy, but I don't have any appeal to go back to Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I can't think of anything good that will make me want to watch it. Yeah, I guess it's below Solo. Just so I'm checking right, does this go in D tier? Solo, Rise of Skywalker, Attack of the Clones.
Solo's in C, isn't it?
You got Solo and C. Oh, okay, cool.
Well,
right.
At this point in time, we have done our deliberations, and Tom can give us the final leaderboard.
Yeah. No, I can't because I don't have it up on my screen, so you're going to have to do it.
Okay, right. Okay, Jesus. I will do it.
Go on, Craig.
So I will start from worst to best, and right at the bottom we have Episode 2, followed by The Rise of Skywalker, both in D. Then we've got in C tier, all by itself, Solo. Then in B tier, we have Episode 1. At the top of B tier is Episode 3. In A, we have Return of the Jedi. Then we have, what's Episode 6 called? No, Episode 7.
7. Force Awakens.
Yep, Force Awakens. And then we've got Star Wars. That's what I'm going to call it. As
Close your mouth, Tom.
Then in S tier, which we are defining as the ultimate Star Wars films, is Empire Strikes Back. Then we have The Last Jedi. Then we have Rogue One, A Star Wars Story.
Wow.
Rogue One is the ultimate Star Wars film, according to us here.
You heard it here. It's a unanimous decision from Upside Down Shark.
It is my favorite. I feel like I've, kicked a pigeon or a kitten by saying that not all of these are in S tier, but
I'm just ready for the place.
If anyone has any problems, just watch the first hour, 40 minutes, and you will understand how we got here.
I would say, just as a brief aside, Mandalorian as a series would go in S tier. I'm really excited for the Book of Boba Fett. Clone Wars would also end up in S tier as a whole, not the animated movie, but as a whole would end up in S tier.
I would say they're all D tier because they're not films. So that just makes them bad as films, is what I'd say.
See, we sat down for the 4-hour Snyder cut, so I'm pretty sure I'd sit down for like a 8-hour Mandalorian cut of a movie.
I would watch that. I would watch that in a heartbeat.
I'd go to a cinema, take a cafeteria, and just watch all the Mandalorian for sure.
You could just get up and go to the toilet.
I'd miss some of it then, Tom.
Okay.
What if it's a good bit?
Just wear
Boba Fett comes back, Tom.
wear a big old diaper.
I would make a point to divide first like 5 seasons of Clone Wars and put those in B tier, and then the rest of Clone Wars into S tier.
And the bad batch.
Can I just be the voice of reason here, right? This video is about Star Wars films. We've done that. Why are we talking about these?
You just want to go.
This is the plenary.
Hungry.
This is the plenary.
This is the green room chats after the show.
UpsideDownShark.com is where you should go, isn't that right, Tom?
That's where you should go.
Make this a Patreon exclusive.
No, because then only I'd watch it. Do all the likey, subscribees. This is UDS Films. We got other tier lists. We got other videos, mainly by the guy with the big hair. And we're gonna go now. And may the force be with you.
I'm gonna go watch The Last Jedi again.
I like sand.
It's coarse. It gets everywhere.
Of
Goodbye.
course.